Coming in at number 5, we've got Asag. I'll start with a demon that's like literally intertwined with the earth. We're not even on Earth at this point. Asag is part of it, and that's pretty cool. Well, at least until you realize how horrifying he is, and that in all likelihood Asag wants you to die the most painful death possible. Then it gets a little less cool. This demon from Sumerian mythology was born from a union between a sky god and an earth goddess. Somehow a god and a goddess created a horrifying demon. Somebody's gotta have an explanation for that. Maybe goodness cancels itself out at some point? I'm probably looking too deep into the mathematics of it. He somehow partnered with the mountains on the earth to create all sorts of rock monsters who will follow him around as a personal army. These little stony soldiers are super hard to kill, you know, because they're made of rock, and will do Asag's bidding pretty much without question. The rock army is only the beginning too. Asag is associated with all sorts of other horrid things like plague and disease. He can dwell inside people using these powers, and will often wear human skins like clothing to further his own plans. And even if he doesn't choose you specifically as a puppet, he's going to inflict you with some deadly disease. So good luck if you feel like you're getting a head cold. That means Asag could be near. Also keep an eye out for dead fish in bodies of water. There's a story about Asag that claims he's so vile and terrible that fish will boil alive in rivers simply from his presence. Born of gods and goddesses, leader of rocky armies, and imbued with the power of disease and death. That is an earthbound demon for the record books. Even if you're confident in your ability to face this demon, he's said to be almost indestructible thanks to that rocky predisposition, so bring lots of explosives. Or maybe just avoid them altogether. Coming in number 4, we've got Vapula. Returning to some Christian demonology, we've got Vapula here. Ever had a friend who suddenly becomes way too paranoid and controlling? Maybe one day they just decided to start being super manipulative, possibly to the point of eroding relationships entirely? Well, they may have been reading the wrong kind of self-help books, or they could have been possessed by Vapula. A great Duke of Hell commanding 36 legions of demons, Vapula has quite a bit of sway in the underworld. However, at one point he did serve in heaven. It's said that Vapula was a soldier under Archangel Ariel before the fall, but now holds a permanent position in hell. However, he's not content to stay deep underground, waiting for the next demonic war. Nah, Vapula's gonna go to the surface and teach humans forbidden knowledge. Hell, he might as well try to corrupt them, right? With a deep knowledge of philosophy, mechanics, and sciences, Vapula would be a bit of a nightmare at any house party. Try holding an inebriated conversation with him that doesn't end up with some long-winded explanation of a theory nobody asked about. But the folks he does sink his claws into tend to also take great interest in said topics. It doesn't stop there though. All of that knowledge tends to make one crafty and possibly even distrustful of those around you. So in sharing his philosophical ideas with unsuspecting humans, he also makes them paranoid that their loved ones and pretty much anyone else around might be working against them. Small-minded wretches who only want to bring them down. He convinced people that they are the smartest and that everyone else is a mindless automaton meant to be taken advantage of or ignored. Uh-oh. So while those possessed by Vapula might find themselves with an IQ boost and some extra problem-solving skills, it's not likely they'll use these things for good. It'll be a whole lot of snooping around and blaming others for things going wrong. I think we all know someone like that. Coming in number 3, we've got Manah. In a similar vein, here's another demon who likes to lure people away from all things good. Manah, the tainter of the mind, the destroyer of morals. Fine, upstanding folks beware. This demon wants to make sure you live a life of sin, shame, and regret. Not that you'll know how you got to that point, but hey. This Zoroastrian demon goes by many names, most of which end up translating to mind made evil, which makes a lot of sense considering this demon's whole purpose. It gets into your mind and makes you want to do bad things, like avoiding good altogether. You could work out and then volunteer at the food bank today, but Manah wants you to watch that new trashy dating show on Netflix while ordering Uber Eats and stalking people on Instagram. I'd say the choice is yours, but when it comes to demonic possession, it's hard to guarantee that. The more Manah influences people to act in negative ways, the closer he gets to his ultimate goal, seeing evil run rampant. It starts small, little acts of sloth and lust, but if he keeps good out of people's minds, larger scale negativity takes hold. Moral obligations, out the window. It's Manah's world at this point, we're just living in it. Coming in number 2, we've got Agares. You'd better stock up on red bars of soap, you're gonna need them where we're going. That's a Christmas story reference for those of you who aren't quite sure about the significance of a leg lamp. Just watch your mouth, alright? Before somebody washes your mouth. Agares is a demon from the Christian pantheon and presides over 31 legions of demons as a great duke of hell. He looks like an old man riding a crocodile and often has a hawk on his hand. Pretty wicked, right? A big thing Agares is known for is causing earthquakes. That is a wild power in and of itself, but it's not even the one with the widest influence. His big calling card is the ability to teach language, and not just any language, filthy language. This is the demon who decided that humans needed to know how to use profanity. Like the kid in the schoolyard whose dad lets him stay up late and watch 14A movies, he's teaching folks all sorts of bad words. Who knew there was a demon that specialized in that? Apparently those who Agares possesses let loose insane strings of profanities in all sorts of different languages. Hell, people who seem to speak in tongues might very well be hosting Agares. I would recite some of the nastier bits, but then we have to beep it all out, we might miss out on some advertising revenue, so maybe do your own independent research. Just don't be bringing that filth into the comments section. I'll find you, red bar of soap in hand, and you will not like what happens next. And finally, at number 1, we've got Lamashtu. Who's hungry? Maybe that's in bad taste, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Lamashtu is found throughout Sumerian and Mesopotamian legends and tends to scare the absolute pants off of people. There's not much that Lamashtu doesn't get up to. Like, if Lamashtu wrote a book about demonic activities, it'd be a bestseller amongst aspiring Hellions. It could even be a cookbook, and it might make it to be one of Heather's picks. So I keep making references to food. Lamashtu kills crops, causes terrible weather, poisons the water supply, gives people nightmares to last entire lifetimes, the works. But she also harasses pregnant women throughout their pregnancies and then steals their babies to drink their blood and chew on their bones. Yum yum, right? All that sounds pretty bad. In fact, it's said that things got so bad that people started summoning Pazuzu to deal with Lamashtu. And it's not like Pazuzu was coming to defend the women or anything. No, it's just that Lamashtu and Pazuzu hated each other so much that if they were in the same town at the same time, it was on sight. Talk about the lesser of two evils, right? Coming in number 5, we've got Ronov. Learning is a lifelong endeavor, correct? The moment you stop learning, you stop living a worthwhile existence. Hopefully nobody feels too called out by that, but I will stand by the statement until I stop learning, which will be when I die. Hopefully Ronov comes for me, because that means I will have lived a long, potentially prosperous life. I say potentially prosperous because nothing is guaranteed, and this demon doesn't seem to particularly care about anything other than old age. Known as the taker of old souls, Ronov will appear near the end of a being's lifespan, whether that be human or not, in order to harvest its soul. Like a wine connoisseur, Ronov knows that things get better with age, and he's more than happy to wait the allotted amount of time. In the meantime, he is a teacher of many things. Maybe the pursuit of knowledge and friendship makes one's old soul even more valuable. Ronov is known for his teachings of rhetoric, or how to be convincing. In fact, a lot of his rhetorical teachings are meant to endear people to their peers, win over potential pals, partners, and people in general. This could be to help Ronov eventually find even more old souls to harvest, but can you blame him? It's kind of like a modern day social media pyramid scheme boss babe scenario, you know? Teaching folks how to influence other folks in order to bring all sorts of organized profit for the person at the very top. But you're running your own business, Ronov. Now, you might not think that someone coming to collect the old souls of old creatures is such a bad thing. However, if a soul goes with Ronov, it's definitely not going anywhere else. So folks who dreamed of a beautiful afterlife in somewhere heavenly might find themselves disappointed, if not totally distressed, with the afterlife Ronov has to offer. Plus, the dude's hideous, like mad ugly, even for a demon. People describe him as a hideous monster with a balding, upsetting human face. He's got a monkey's tail and walks around in the nude carrying a gnarled old staff. I really hope that's not a euphemism. Yikes. Coming in number 4, we've got AIM. Look around you. Everything's on fire these days, it seems. Temperatures are rising around the globe and nothing seems to be safe from flame. Forest fires are to be expected, although these are more common and destructive than ever. Thanks baby gender reveal parties. Definitely worth it. But the overuse of blue and pink fireworks in heavily wooded areas isn't the only thing contributing to these massive pyres. Sure, forests are on fire, but those are made of wood, famous for its flammable properties. How about the ocean though? Should that really be catching fire? Now, we can look at all sorts of contributing factors here and come away with a list of things adding to the flammability of our world. Burning fossil fuels, weapons manufacturing, the exploitation of delicate natural resources, and more. But what if we could blame a demon for all these big fires? Wouldn't that take the blame and pressure off for a little bit? If you think that's true, then I have a demon for you. AIM, Great Duke of Hell, commander of 20 demonic legions, all around jerk. Classic. Aim is known for his love of fire, and he doesn't ever seem to stop igniting them. Depicted as a man in most accounts, he's got a good head on his shoulders. A good few heads actually, as in addition to his human head in the middle, there's a serpent head and a cat head. He rides around on an enormous viper wielding a firebrand at all times, and with that ever-burning torch he ignites all of those insane fires. Most of what he burns can be considered great places. He's been responsible for the incineration of enormous castles, bustling cities, and other assorted buildings and locations. And of course, this can be spread to other problem areas like forests, the ocean, and all of Australia. So put away your charity money, forget about living a greener life, and don't bother lobbying major corporations and governments to cool it with the environmental destruction. Just blame AIM, the demon from hell, for all this fire and smoke. Isn't that just so much easier? Coming in number 3, we've got Mephistopheles, the meddling middleman demon. Mephistopheles will gladly take your soul for a luxurious price. Enjoy all the things you've imagined yourself enjoying as long as the devil has your essence at the end of the day. Sounds pretty nice, right? Well, Faust might disagree with you. Mephistopheles is a demon of German origin, famously originating in the demonic deal-making legend of Faustian fame. If you're willing to sacrifice your values for material gain, you might run into Mephistopheles. In the original legend, Faust is dissatisfied with his life and after attempting to end it himself makes a deal with the devil. In this deal, Mephistopheles will serve Faust for a set amount of time, and at the end Faust will be handed over to the devil for an eternity of servitude. This demon helps Faust seduce a beautiful young girl, often named Gretchen, resulting in her life falling to ruin. How the tale ends is widely contested, as many different versions of the story have been told. However, through Mephistopheles' help, Faust often commits to a life of sin, unable to make up for the evil deeds he's done. In one of the most famous tellings of Faust, penned by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Faust does make it to heaven in the end thanks to his endless striving. This makes Mephistopheles quite mad, but what can you do? Of course, this demon has also been reimagined in many ways, becoming a stock demonic character in folklore and even being made into an enemy of Silver Surfer and Johnny Blaze as Mephisto. There's no avoiding the influence of this particular demon, and as a human with desires, you've probably had a few brushes with him over the years. Coming in number 2, we've got Baal. Some demons are especially hideous. Baal knows this fact quite well, as he is one of the most despicable looking. Appearing as a combination of cat, toad, and man, often a weird blobby mix of all of them with spider legs underneath, this is a weird looking dude. Sorry Baal, but it's true. Somehow, this hideous creature seems to be able to teach people concepts related to science and love. The first one, I sorta get. The second one though, well, you know what? Maybe the adversity Baal has gone through thanks to his hideousness has made him a wiser, kinder person. He's still a demon though, so take what he teaches with a grain of salt. He commands an indefinite number of legions and could be ranked anywhere from a Duke of Hell to a prince to even a king. He's got a hoarse voice and can also make anyone invisible. So yeah, Baal everyone! And finally at number 1 we've got Ahriman. While this demon might not be immortal in the same way others are, he definitely represents all sorts of negative forces in a way that's all his own. Ahriman is the Zoroastrian primordial deity of evil. It's a pretty heavy title, don't you think? Often called the Druj or the Lie, he's the force that drives anger, greed, envy, and more. Folks spend their entire lives trying to avoid the influence of this demon, oftentimes to no avail. It's hard to stay away from a force that embodies chaos, death, disease, disorder, and confusion. It's just all part of the human experience. There are many legends concerning Ahriman, from the creation of many diseases, to the invention of other demons meant to cause harm to humans, to raising a son to be pure evil. Ahriman is evil incarnate and appears in many tales across many places. He is destined to be eventually overcome by forces of good, but until that happens, things are gonna be pretty rough. Coming in number 5, we've got Pisachus. Out of all the demons created by Brahma, these ones are probably the worst of all. They take the cake, no problem. They take the meat, rotten flesh, bones, and other assorted once living food too. Pisachus love to eat, and they will stop at nothing to get a meal. Their preferred food is human flesh, though it doesn't seem to matter if it's alive, dead, or even fresh. As long as they get to eat people, they're happy. Knowing this, most folks would do well to stay as far away as possible from these things. Their taste for people meat isn't all that makes them horrifying though. Pisachus have all sorts of dark and doom-ridden abilities, ready to ruin lives at the earliest opportunity. Anywhere there's an abundance of human corpses, you can find one of these demons. Whether that means a graveyard, a charnel house, or the site of a recent massacre. Once they get their fill of corpse meat, they'll go about trying to infect humans who are still alive. They're known for passing on debilitating and deadly diseases to unfortunate victims and even instilling bouts of horrid madness into others. So even if you survive one, the other might get you. The madness only serves to double down on their goals, as folks who lose their minds will often attack fellow humans, and attacks by madmen aren't often clean-cut either. Pisachas love to haunt areas in which violent deaths occurred, making this a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more deaths, the more Pisachas. The more Pisachas, the more disease and madness, the more deaths. And so on, and so on, and so on. Forests in India are said to be flush with these demons too, so watch out. People seem to think that carrying a piece of very pure iron helps in warding them off, so give it a try if you've got some hiking to do. Alternatively, you can carry around the leaves of a neem tree, as this seems to do the trick as well. The folks who have to be the most careful are pregnant women, as Pisachas love to eat their flesh. A little mother-offspring combo. Yeesh. Coming at number 4, we've got the Cauchemar. My French is a little rusty, so hopefully I'm pronouncing this correctly. If not, let me know in the comments. Regardless of how I say this demon's name, it is unpleasant and horrifying. This French name for a European demon is found in many different stories, usually referring to a leaping, jumping, sleep-eating beast. The idea of a sleep paralysis demon is pervasive, with many different iterations appearing across all sorts of different cultures. This one in particular is extra nasty though. Most sleep paralysis demons will simply sit upon your chest, rendering you immobile and terrified. The Cauchemar will jump right onto your ribs, causing quite the jolt and possibly even some pain. From there, it reverts back to classic sleep paralysis demon behavior, complete with night terrors and the everlasting feeling of being able to do nothing about your predicament. It's not a good way to spend your night. See, this is why I don't sleep on my back. If my face is in the pillow, this demon can't hurt me, or so I think. The Cauchemar will often return many times during the night over the course of many weeks. This can result in folks losing a whole lot of beauty rest, slowly losing energy, and becoming permanently fatigued. As time goes on, people targeted by the Cauchemar will also start to refuse to sleep, staying up for days at a time. This, as we all know, is a recipe for disaster. Not sleeping for extended periods of time will make folks irritable, irrational, and possibly even cause hallucinations. Hell, in the case of people harboring sand demons, they might even become a merciless killer with no regard for human life. There are ways to counteract this though, like putting shoes beside your bed facing out, or in more extreme cases, placing iron nails inside of your mattress. The Princess and the Pea, this is not. Has anyone ever slept on a bed of nails? I personally have laid down upon one at Science North, but that was for about 10 seconds and they retracted the nails before I got up. Maybe it is worth it to avoid being visited by this terrible creature. Coming in at number 3, we've got the Langsweer. As is the case with many Malaysian demons, this one is inextricably linked to childbirth. The Langsweer in particular is a demon born of spirits who died during childbirth. Some demons will seek out newborns, others will attack still pregnant women. If the spirit who died transforms into a demon, it will grow a very particular set of new features. Langsweer are known for their floor-length dark hair, long talons, and the ability to fly. Kinda like a harpy, but much more objectively awful. They spend most of their time flying around stealing fish from the nets of fishermen. Their long talons and flying capabilities make this an easy task. It robs food and money from the fishermen in the community, but at least it keeps them satiated most of the time. If a Langsweer decides it's had enough of fish, it might go off in search of an infant. Their absolute favorite food is newborn blood. It's like gourmet dining to them. Often the Langsweer will change form to get an infant, whether that means impersonating a nurse, midwife, or other human presence who can get close to a baby. If you ever suspect someone might be a Langsweer, look for a hole in the back of their neck. That's a sure sign the demon is looking for blood. Thankfully, this hole is also how you can kill the creature. Taking their talons and hair and pushing them into the hole can kill one of these monsters in an instant. Coming in at number 2, we've got Nidhogg. I won't judge if your first experience with Nidhogg was that hilarious fencing video game. To be totally honest, it was mine too. However, purge those happy thoughts from your head because this demon is nothing to be trifled with. Originating in Norse mythology, this is an enormous serpent who will always be threatening the fate of the world. It's large enough to wrap itself around the entirety of the world and constantly slithers around down there. Its constant consumption of corpses has earned it the title of the Terror of Corpses, which, while very metal, is upsetting the longer you think about it. While consuming all of these bodies, Nidhogg also tends to chomp at the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree, and when this tree falls, only bad things can follow. And finally at number 1, we've got Namazu. And to cap us off, another underground creature way too large to even picture. The creator of earthquakes, the king of catfish, Namazu. And when I say catfish, I don't mean people lying on their dating profile. I'm talking about an actual whiskered fish that lieth deep in the muck and mire. You're not going to want this one to latch onto your arm though, not even if you are a redneck noodling legend. This catfish should be left well alone because it's basically as big as a continent. Powerful enough to be the source of all earthquakes too. In Japanese lore, the Namazu lies in rest under their country. However, if it ever becomes angry, it will begin to thrash around, and you can guess what happens next. In order to prevent the destruction caused by these rage-fueled tantrums, it's said that a huge stone lays upon its back, which keeps it still. Well, at least until the deity watching over it loses focus, which is bound to happen from time to time. Because of the massive destruction some earthquakes caused in Japan, many started treating them as events meant to rectify some of humanity's sins. This also meant treating this legendary enormous catfish as a god of sorts. A god or a demon? You decide. Coming in number 5, we've got Berchta. We love to recoil from hags, don't we? In stories old and new, there always seems to be this image of an old hideous woman with dark powers and even darker intentions. The old crone, the dastardly spinster, the evil witch dwelling deep within the woods. It's a classic trope and one that really resonates with a lot of people. Aging itself is pretty spooky, and most folks, especially young ones, don't like to be reminded that we'll end up like that someday. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially when you're gonna be on about 50 different medications by that time. Berchta takes full advantage of the spooky qualities of an ancient witch and causes problems 24/7. In fact, she's so spooky that many parents like to use her as a vague threat when their children are misbehaving. Some things never change. Berchta appears as an old shriveled up hag, hunched over with beady eyes, a hooked nose, and a head of greasy stringy hair. Classic fairy tale witch appearance. This image alone is enough to scare some kids into compliance, but the story that comes along with her is much more disturbing. She's a bit like a malevolent Santa Claus, promising to bring gifts to all the good little boys and girls, especially ones that cook delicious meals for her. However, the punishment for naughty children is not just replacing a nice gift with one of coal. No, she's not so forgiving. If she finds that the meals left out for her are unsatisfactory, she gets really upset, and when Berchta is upset, she gets slashy. Stomach slashy. She'll disembowel the offending parties and then stitch their stomachs back up with chains. Not thread, not sinew, chains. A very metal experience, I'm sure, but that's not a fate that anyone wants to fall to. So be good, learn some new recipes, and pray that this ghastly crone opts to visit a different village this year. Not everyone can pull off the mutilated belly look. Coming in number 4, we've got La Llorona. Don't get it twisted. This demon wasn't created just to star in a Conjuring series spin-off. There is some real history surrounding this particular demon, even though it gets the Hollywood treatment akin to Annabelle. At least they didn't make this one out of porcelain when the original was a Raggedy Ann. Putting aside the movie for now, let's take a look at the origins of this demon. Originating in Mexico, this is a tragic tale indeed, one of love, loss, and loneliness. All things that tend to result in demons roaming the earth, which makes it very tough to be a human with normal emotions. There was once a woman who fell in love with a man. She wanted nothing more than to be with him, but he would not reciprocate these feelings, partially because this woman already had children of her own. In a fit of madness, she took her children down to the river and drowned them. After this, she went back and attempted to make the man love her once more, but unsurprisingly, he did not. At that moment, she realized the grave nature of her actions. Weeping loudly, she went down to the water and cast herself into its murky depths. Being so distraught, combined with her deplorable actions, this woman was unable to move on to the afterlife. So her spirit haunts the waters, loudly weeping in the night. She forgets how she got there too, which results in a lot of questionable behavior. For starters, she believes that any children near the water are her own. This can't be true, of course, as she drowned those herself. However, she seems to forget a lot of the things she did in life and only retains that sorrow, longing for her children. If she gets her hands on kids near the water though, she does not caress them. She does not feed them cookies or sing them songs. The madness returns and she drowns these new victims. Yikes. People interact with this demon in a few different ways, often trying to spot her down by the water at night, but the legend spread further and the stories changed from telling to telling. Some even treat her as a Bloody Mary type character, able to be summoned by chanting her name in front of a darkened mirror. Regardless of the story you subscribe to, there's no denying the terrifying appeal of an entity like this, lost in their own mind, looking to take back what they so viciously threw away many years ago. Coming at number 3, we've got Ben Air. Water tends to be the source of terror across all sorts of cultures, and that isn't limited to the larger bodies either. From oceans to lakes to rivers to streams, these natural sources of liquid and life are often the birthplace of unholy abominations as well. Some are truly eldritch in their forms, while others appear harmless. At first, anyway. This Scottish legend seems to just be a kindly old woman washing her clothes in a stream. Sometimes referred to as the little washer by the ford, it's easy to see how she might trick someone into feeling safe. She's said to be washing the bloodied clothes of someone who will soon die, and if you run into her, your days are numbered. A portent of doom, a sign of things to come, the Ben-Air is a symbol of impending disaster. She'll be wearing green, have webbed feet, and won't often be doing anything other than washing. If you spot her and she spots you, she'll whip at you with whatever garment she's washing, locker room style. One good lick with this improvised weapon could break bones, no problem. But if you manage to sneak your way to the water without her noticing, she'll allow you to ask for 3 wishes. They're not free though. In order to cash in on a wish, you must answer a question she poses totally honestly. And they're not often easy questions. So if you're ready to stealth your way to a deadly washerwoman and you're prepared to lay your soul bare, this could be an interesting demon to encounter. Coming in at number 2, we've got Poroscoro. Many demons are created through unexpected avenues. In many myths, legends, and tales of yore, strange meetings between gods and other creatures give way to awful presences. You wouldn't think that forces of good and evil would come together like that, but the world is an unpredictable place. In the Romani tale of Poroscoro, the demon king and the queen of Fae managed to link up at some point. The fairy queen's servants attempted to make a cake of all sorts of hellish materials in order to keep the demon king away, but to no avail. Soon after that, Poroscoro was born. With the body of a human, 3 cat heads, 4 dog heads, and a tail made of a snake, he's quite the sight to behold. He's also extra scary to us these days, as pandemics are his specialty. He and his many children run amok, spreading deadly diseases in any way they see fit. The worst of all are those spread by parasites too. All in all, a gross, dangerous, and upsetting creature. And coming in at number 1, we've got the Jinn. This is a bit of a broad way to refer to these demons, as there are many specific varieties of Jinn, and many take on names of their very own. But we'll do a top-down look at these ancient demons today. The Jinn were originally considered manifestations of the wilder aspects of life, things that humans couldn't take over and subdue, but in a more corporeal form. Whether these creatures were gods, demons, or something else entirely was contested, although with time Jinn took on a more malevolent form. These demons could shapeshift, appearing as humanoids with animal features, often switching between appearances. They often partook in biblical angel behavior as well, looking to interact and interface with humans thanks to flaws in their nature. The ones who did end up doing this were punished by other deities for doing so, and often ended up more evil than when they started. They came to embody certain taboo behaviors and even managed to become synonymous with possession. And of course, there are also the ghoul, but we'll save those for another day.